Hi, students. This presentation will show you the basics of MLA style. MLA is an acronym for Modern Language Association. In the English classroom, we generally use MLA. So, any English classroom you take, you will have to format your essays in MLA style. MLA style is meant to give credit to the author. That's the whole purpose. It gives credit to the author. You'll be using MLA in two different formats, two different ways, okay? The first, you will have to format your essay. MLA requires you to format your essay in MLA style. Okay, that has to do with the technical aspects of your essay, like putting your name on your paper, double spacing, make sure 12-point font. That's the technical aspect of your paper. So that's MLA style when it comes to your paper. Then there's MLA style when it comes to research. When you are borrowing somebody else's text or words, you have to format your quotes in MLA style. You have to give credit to the author. So those are the two different ways that you'll be using MLA, okay, in the classroom. Again, MLA stands for what? Modern Language Association. It's a style, okay? Now, let's think about MLA style in essay format. So, like I mentioned earlier, you will have to format your essay in MLA style. What does that mean? It will look something like this. And you can go online and you can find numerous MLA formatted essays. You have your name, then my name, and then the title of the course, and then the date. And again, follow these prompts. The rules are here, double space, 12-point font, center your title, on the upper right hand side, your last name and page number, okay? Now, what is the vocabulary MLA style? Words associated with MLA style. So a lot of times you'll hear me say, cite a source in your paper. That means basically a source is another word for text. So it means a source is another word for the text that you will reference throughout your essay. So when I say cite a source, you have to cite a source in that paper. That's what I mean. You'll have to cite find a text to cite in your paper. Okay. Um, Cite means to mention the source or to quote it. So when I say cite, it means mention the source or quote it in your paper. Okay. So again, these are the words of MLA style vocabulary. So what is an in-text citation? Let's look at, when you have to format, you're borrowing um, somebody else's words or ideas and you're putting it in your paper. How do you cite that so that you're not accused of plagiarism? Okay. An in-text citation is a fancy word for a quote. So there's a certain way you format your quotes. Okay. So once you borrow somebody's ideas from a text, the author's ideas, and you want to put it in your paper, there's a certain way you have to format it. You need a signal phrase. There are three aspects of an in-text citation. You need a signal phrase. A signal phrase is it basically comes before your quote. So it's like the simplest signal phrase is according to, and you put that in front of your quote. Okay, according to Mr. Smith. Okay, then after that, you put quotation marks around your quote. And at the end of your quote, you put page numbers. Okay. You put a page number at the end of your quotes. So again, three aspects of an in-text citation. Signal phrase. Okay. The easiest signal phrase is according to. That signals that, hey, a quote is coming. Then your quotation marks around your quote. And then your parenthetical page numbers. If it's a poem, it will be line numbers. If it's a video, it's going to be a timestamp. Okay. This is what an in-text citation looks like. As Matt Sundin has noted, that's my signal phrase, or I could have said according to Matt Sundin. And then quotation marks around my quote. And at the end, I have my page number. And that basically means this quote was found on page 5. Now, what if you're citing a source and it has like 5 or 6 authors? Whenever you cite your source, the first thing you have to do, you have to mention the first time you mention a source in your paper, you have to spell out everything, the author's full name and the title of the text. So the author's full name. So if you have four authors, you have to spell out their all of their names and you have to spell out the title of the text. First, initially you do. After that, you don't have to do that again. You only have to mention the first author's last name and a Latin phrase here called et al. That means et and others. Okay. So it'll look like this: Smith et al. State. Okay. Smith and others state. Okay. That means this basically signals to me that, okay, you've already mentioned the other authors before and you're using this phrase basically to let me know that, you don't want to mention all of those authors again. So that's what it looks like. In MLA allows you to omit page numbers if it's a one-page source. Okay, what about citing a Bible or the Quran? You still have to use a signal phrase. Here in Proverbs 25:21, that's my signal phrase. Solomon states, that's my signal phrase. With the Bible comes chapters and verses. Okay, and once you put your quotation marks around your quote, and at the end, you just close the quote out because you've already put all of the important information in your signal phrase. So if I want to go to the Bible, I would look for Proverbs 25:21. Okay, so all of the information that's pertinent to me finding this quote, you put in a signal phrase. Okay, I love blended quotes. Blended quotes are very convenient. It means that if you have a long quote, if your quote is like 5, 6, 7 sentences long, all you need to do to reduce all that clutter, because you don't ever want to cite something that long unless you're writing like a 30-page research paper, and you guys won't be writing that in this class. But this piece right here, refuse to use pesticides. That little piece came from a huge quote, a very long quote, but I didn't need that entire quote. I only needed that piece of the quote. This piece of the quote, refuse to use pesticides. So I blended that into my own words. Mr. and Mrs. Allen said that they refuse to use pesticides. And this little piece of quote came from page 34. Okay. So blended quotes are really good. They streamline your paper. It makes your paper look neat and clean, and it's straightforward and to the point. Okay. Use a colon after a complete sentence, a signal phrase that's a complete sentence. Consider the words of John F. Kennedy, colon. That's a signal phrase. It comes right before your quote. Okay. Um, ellipses and ellipses, dots, and brackets. So you don't have to use ellipses and brackets in your paper. However, they do make your paper look more sophisticated. So an ellipses is kind of the same concept as a blended quote. There's no need to cite so many lines of quotations, okay, of quotes. You don't have to do it. You only need to focus on the words that you want to cite in your paper, okay? From whatever your quote is. If it's a long quote, you don't need it. You only need the pieces that you need to prove your whatever your point is. So you use ellipses to pretty much get rid of the clutter. But here's the thing with ellipses. Whatever's left over must be a complete sentence. Okay? Whatever is left over whatever you take out has to be a complete sentence. Whatever is the end product must be a complete sentence. And brackets basically help you clarify, okay? So you have ellipses there, you have brackets here, and brackets just help you clarify something, a quote. So if your quote isn't saying exactly what you wanted to say, you can use brackets, add a bracket to clarify. And basically, when a person reads your paper and sees a bracket, that person will know, okay, you added this to your original quote. So here's the quote. The man was standing on the corner. If I wanted to take out some information, what if I wanted to take out standing? Okay. Then this is how add an ellipses. The man was dot 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 on the corner. Okay. And what if I wanted to add a bracket? I would say the man was on the corner bracket next to the tree. So you use brackets to clarify, to add something that isn't originally part of the quote. You're adding it to make your point or to prove something or to clarify something. Okay. So that's how you use ellipses and brackets. These are long quotes. Block quotes are long quotes. You really won't need them. When you write your research paper, you may be able to get away with using one, but that's it. So here is in this case, your signal phrase is a complete sentence. You put a colon after it. You tab everything over. You don't put quotation marks because it's a long quote and it's the way you format it. Your end punctuation, instead of going here, it goes here. As you can see, it goes inside instead of outside. Originally, it would go outside, but here it goes inside. Okay. Quotes within quotes. Quotes within quotes are generally rare. You may come across it, but a quote within a quote is basically somebody that you like in a text, an author quotes another author. That's what it is. And there's a way you format it. There are different ways you can format it. Just read your book for that or ask for help, ask your teacher for help. But rarely, will you come in contact with quotes within quotes because you can easily say, according in so and so's in Jane Doe's book, so and so, she cites Dr. So and so. That's basically what a quote within a quote is. There's so many ways you can format it, okay? Summaries, you won't need to use summaries, too many summaries in your paper. But even with a summary, you have to have a signal phrase and you have to have page numbers. You don't need quotation marks because you're summarizing it. But yeah, you don't want to use. You may want to use maybe one summary, maybe one, if any. I frown on summaries because you don't need them. But in case you use them, you still have to have a signal phrase and you have to have a page number. Okay. Short stories and poetry. If you are in 1101, 1102, this pertains to you. If you're in 1101 class, you don't have to worry about this. But when you are citing a source, a short story or prose, you have to add a page number. Okay. But when you are citing poetry, you don't put page numbers, you put line numbers. So here you still need a signal phrase. The speaker here in lines 1 through 2, the speaker says, that's my signal phrase. Okay. I've put, I've let the reader know this information that I'm quoting are lines 1 and 2, comes from lines 1 and 2. Okay. And that's it. Now, what if I didn't use a signal phrase? It would look like this. The speaker says my quote, and at the end, I have my line numbers. Now, here's what you should not do. You can't have a signal phrase here, okay, and then have put your line numbers here again. So don't, if you put line numbers in your signal phrase, do not put line numbers at the end of your quote or in your parenthetical. It's redundant, okay? Put them in either one place, either in your signal phrase or your parenthetical. Okay, what about point of reference? So this is very important. A lot of students don't know this rule, but this is a really important rule. Um, when you first cite, and I mentioned this earlier, when you first cite a source in your paper, you have to mention the author's full name and the title of the text. For instance, look at this example. Salman Rushdie, that's the author's full name. The author of this is the author's um article. Okay, the title of the article. I mentioned the full author's name, the title of the article. And once I do that, the only thing you have to do throughout the rest of your essay is mention the author's last name, just the last name, and the quote and the page number. That's it. You do this, you always mention whenever you cite a source, you always mention the author's full name and the title first. initially first in your introduction as a point of reference so that when I read your paper, I will know what are you going to cite. Okay, it's used as a point of reference. Now, if you cite like three or more sources in your paper, what I would do, there are plenty of ways you can arrange it. I usually mention the most important source in my introduction, and then the rest of the sources, you just mention them strategically whenever you first, but the rule still applies when you first introduce them. You have to mention the author's full name, the title, and then after that, you only have to mention the author's last name, and the quote, and then the page number. That's it. Now, here is a paragraph. Let's pretend this is a paragraph that you have written about the value of eating foreign cuisine. Okay. And you want to add a quote. You have to, when you do this, you have to strategically put your quote where you think it's needed or the place you think it's most needed to support your viewpoint. So if you're talking about cuisine and you're mentioning cuisine, you may want to put your quote, right after you mention these sources because your quotes, your source, that's your expert. And so your expert is pretty much basically supporting what you're saying. It's like a puzzle. Okay. You got to figure out, okay, what quote am I going to use that supports what I'm saying? I need to get an expert to support what I'm saying. Okay. And that's how you format it. Again, you have to use your signal phrase, put quotation marks around your quote, and at the end, put your page number. Lastly, works cited page. So all of the sources that you use in your paper, you have to put them on a works cited page. It's a reference page for research purposes. If somebody reads your paper and they want to go back and do some additional research, they're going to have to know where your quotes come from. So that's what a works cited page is all about. Every every source on the works site, every entry on the works cited page, that's just your sources in your paper, okay? Um, there's a way you set up your works cited page. It's pretty much basic. I can't really teach how to create a works cited page because you just have to plug in the information and I'll show you what I mean. You do have to determine if your source is printed or electronic. I would do that first, okay? Because they are formatted. The entries, they have different formats, okay? So that's really important. Read the rules. And here, once you look in your book, it's going to tell you, if you're looking for a book, if you're trying to format a book, okay, your quotes come from a book. The rules are going to tell you, you know, put the author's name, book title, publisher, and then year. That's all you have to put. So I really can't teach this. Works cited pages information is really it's going to require you to pay very close attention to details, okay? And just plug in what it tells you to plug in. That's it. So, determine if it's a printed or an online source. And here, if it's an online source, add a URL. Just follow all of the prompts. Every so often, MLA does update rules, and the rules have changed a few times over the past 10 years. Um, but your teacher will tell you whenever the rules change, so you don't have to worry about that. Now, just for practice, format an intake citation based on the information below. Don't forget to put a signal phrase, quotation marks, and parentheticals. So if I look at this information, okay, it looks like Grace Chin is the author of A History of Public Schools. So the first thing you know immediately what you need to do is you need your signal phrase. And what's the easiest signal phrase? According to. So I would say according to what's the author's full name because remember you have to mention when you first cite a source in your paper, you have to mention the author's full name and the full title of the source. So according to Grace Chin's article, A History of Public Schools, you can say something like she states or the article states. Then you find a quote. Find a quote that you think you will use in your paper. Okay. Find a quote, put quotation marks around it. And at the end, this information came from page 3. Okay. Came from page 3. So you will put quotation marks around the quote. And at the end, you'll put page 3. And what does it look like? Let's go to the next page so you'll see what it looks like in real time. So, as you can see, according to Grace Chen's article, A History of Public Schools, put quotation marks around it since it's an article. And then you're going to pull the quote, whatever quote you're going to use to support your main point. Do that. Put quotation marks around it. Don't forget that. Then you're going to put the page number at the end. That's it. It's that basic. It's simple. Okay. And there you go. Now, you guys have to practice, practice, practice this. Okay. Practice. And the more you practice, the more you will understand. And that's how you format a basic in-text citation. That's pretty much it. That's all I have for you for this presentation. If you guys have questions, let me know. Again, MLA is a style. Um, use your book. Use the MLA section of your book for all of the rules. If you have questions and you need verification, always ask the teacher. The teacher will let you know if you're going in the right direction. But that is all for now. If you have questions, of course, always contact your teacher. Don't wait too late. But again, practice, practice, practice. Thank you.